At the final moment of Abraham's life, peace be upon him, the matter that concerned him most as he prepared to depart this world was the matter of this truth, which he wanted to ensure was firmly rooted in the hearts of his sons before his passing. And when his sustainer said to him, "Surrender yourself," he answered, "I have surrendered myself to the sustainer of all the worlds." And this very faith did Abraham enjoin upon his children, and so did Jacob. "O my children, behold, God has chosen for you the true faith. Remain then until death, surrendering yourselves to him." Surah Al-Baqarah 2, 131, 132. And indeed he made it a lasting word among his descendants, so that they might return to it. And he left it as a word to endure among those who would come after him, so that they might return to God. Surah Az-Zukhruf 43, 28. From Abraham and his sons, namely Ishmael and Isaac, to his grandson Jacob, peace be upon them all. Their final counsel to their children was this very truth, just as we see in the verse from Surah Al-Baqarah. During his life, this truth was ever present in Abraham's heart. Every movement of his was stirred by it, every concern he had was directed by it, and every time he was touched by joy or hardship, this truth was present in his heart, never absent. He was ever mindful of the grace of his sustainer upon him and upon his forefathers, always remembering and thanking God. This is evident when Joseph, peace be upon him, told his father of his prophetic dream as a young boy. "And thus will your sustainer elect you, and impart unto you some knowledge of the inner meaning of happenings, and will bestow the full measure of his blessings upon you and upon the house of Jacob, even as he bestowed it aforetime upon your forefathers Abraham and Isaac. For verily your sustainer is all-knowing, wise." Surah Yusuf 12, 6. He leaned on his sustainer even in the loss of his beloved son. "Nay, your own selves have contrived this tale. But as for me, patience in adversity is most fitting, and God alone is my help in that which you assert." Surah Yusuf 12:18. And when he entrusted his second beloved son to them after Joseph had been lost, though he knew they had failed him before, still he entrusted his son to his sustainer, knowing what he knew from the all-knowing sustainer. Jacob said, "Shall I trust you with him as I trusted you earlier with his brother? But God is the best to take care of him, and he is the most merciful of those who show mercy." Surah Yusuf 12:64. He bore witness before God concerning his sons, and took their solemn pledge. He said, "I will not send him with you until you give me a solemn pledge in the name of God that you will indeed bring him back to me, unless you are yourselves surrounded by enemies." And when they had given him their solemn pledge, he said, "God is witness to all that we say." Surah Yusuf 12:66. He even advised them not to enter from a single gate, surrendering the matter to God, aware that causes alone do not bring about results. It is God's will and decree that are decisive. And he said, "O my sons, do not enter by one gate, but enter by different gates. Yet I cannot avail you against what is decreed by God in any way. Sovereignty belongs only to God. In him do I place my trust, and in him let all who trust place their trust." Surah Yusuf 12:67. And when he received the second blow with the loss of his second beloved son, he turned again to patience and hope in his sustainer, never wavering. "Nay, your own selves have contrived this tale, but patience in adversity is most fitting. It may well be that God will bring them back to me in the end. Verily, he alone is all-knowing, wise." Surah Yusuf 12:83. Even when his sons reproached him for his prolonged sorrow over Joseph, he merely hinted that they should leave him to his sustainer, for he knew something they did not know. They said, "By God, you will never stop remembering Joseph until you waste away or die." He replied, "I only complain of my grief and sorrow to God, and I know through God what you do not know." Surah Yusuf 12:85, 86. Yet even after all this he did not despair of God's mercy, and urged his sons not to lose hope either. "O my sons, go forth and search for Joseph and his brother, and never give up hope of God's mercy. For none but people who deny the truth ever lose hope of God's mercy." Surah Yusuf 12:87. Then came the moment when his endurance, his reliance on God, and his unwavering hope were rewarded. He received the good news of Joseph and his brother, and along with that news his sight was restored, just as his sustainer had promised. And when the bearer of good news arrived, he laid Joseph's shirt over his face, whereupon his sight returned. Jacob exclaimed, "Did I not tell you that I know from God something that you do not know?" Surah Yusuf 12:96. Indeed, he had always been certain of his sustainer's promise. And from Jacob to Joseph, peace be upon them both, let us witness this truth manifesting in Joseph's heart when the wife of the nobleman attempted to seduce him, and the woman in whose house he was living attempted to seduce him. She bolted the doors and said, "Come to me." He replied, "God forbid. Truly my sustainer has been good to me. Verily the wrongdoers never prosper." Surah Yusuf 12:23. And when the women of the city conspired against him, and he felt his weakness, he sought refuge in God, and chose imprisonment over committing a sin. He said, "O my sustainer, prison is dearer to me than that to which they invite me. And unless you turn their guile away from me, I might incline towards them and become one of the ignorant." So his sustainer heard his prayer and warded off their guile from him. Verily, he is the all-hearing, the all-knowing. Surah Yusuf 12:33, 34. Even in prison, Joseph continued to call others to the truth that was firmly rooted in his heart. "O my two fellow prisoners, are many sustainers better, or the one God, the Almighty? Whatever you worship beside him is nothing but names which you and your forefathers have devised, for which God has sent down no authority. Judgment belongs only to God. He has commanded that you worship none but him. That is the upright way, but most people do not know." Surah Yusuf 12:39, 40. When God finally granted him power in the land, and he revealed his identity to his brothers on their second visit, we hear him acknowledging the grace of God upon him, expressing gratitude and recognizing the truth of his sustainer. They said, "Are you indeed Joseph?" He replied, "I am Joseph, and this is my brother. God has been gracious to us. Verily, whosoever is conscious of God and is patient, God does not let the reward of those who do good be lost." Surah Yusuf 12:90. Finally, we see Joseph in that magnificent scene, with the truth shining forth as he stands in the glory of kingship with the joy of his dream's fulfillment and in the reunion with his parents and his family. Yet, despite all this, he turns entirely to his sustainer with gratitude and prays that he take him as a Muslim and join him with the righteous. And when they entered Joseph's presence, he drew his parents to himself and said, "Enter Egypt in safety if God so wills." And he raised his parents upon the throne, and they bowed down before him. And Joseph said, "O my father, this is the fulfillment of my earlier vision. My sustainer has made it come true. And he was good to me when he took me out of prison and brought you here from the desert, after Satan had sown enmity between me and my brothers. Verily, my sustainer is subtle in what he wills. Verily, he is the all-knowing, the wise. O my sustainer, you have given me some power and taught me the interpretation of events, creator of the heavens and the earth. You are my protector in this world and in the hereafter. Let me die and surrender to you and join me with the righteous." Surah Yusuf 12:99, 101. Now let us take some swift glimpses of this truth in the heart of Moses. Peace be upon him. The story of Moses is the most frequently mentioned in the Quran, but here we can only select a few moments and encounter them briefly. Here is Moses fleeing from Egypt after being warned by a believer from Pharaoh's people that the council was plotting to kill him. With fear in his heart, Moses turns to his sustainer for refuge and finds him ever present in his heart. And a man came running from the farthest end of the city, saying, "O Moses, the council is conspiring to kill you, so leave at once. I am giving you sincere advice." So he left, fearful and vigilant. He prayed, "My sustainer, save me from the wrongdoing people." And when he turned his face towards Madian, he said, "Perhaps my sustainer will guide me to the right path." When he arrived at the well of Madian, he found a crowd of people watering their flocks, and he found two women standing apart, holding back their flocks. He said, "What is the matter with you?" They replied, "We cannot water our flocks until the shepherds take away theirs, and our father is a very old man." So he watered their flocks for them, then withdrew to the shade and said, "My sustainer, whatever good you send down to me, I am in dire need of it. Surah Al-Qasas 28:20-24. Now here he is, returning to Egypt after 10 years, accompanied by his family, when suddenly he encounters his sustainer, an awe-inspiring, magnificent and majestic meeting. Has the story of Moses reached you? When he saw a fire and said to his family, "Stay here, indeed I have seen a fire. Perhaps I can bring you a torch or find guidance at the fire." When he came to it, he was called, "O Moses, verily I am your sustainer. Take off your sandals, you are in the sacred valley of Tuwa, and I have chosen you, so listen to what is revealed. Verily, I am God. There is no deity except me, so worship me and establish prayer for my remembrance. Verily the hour is coming, though I choose to keep it hidden, so that every soul may be rewarded for what it strives for. Therefore let not anyone who does not believe in it and follows their desires turn you away from it, lest you perish." Surah Taha 29:16. Thus Moses, peace be upon him, was chosen and commissioned with prophethood. Alongside his brother Aaron, he stood before the mighty Pharaoh, proclaiming the truth that filled his heart, mind and life, his past, present and future. "We are messengers from your sustainer. Let the children of Israel go with us, and do not oppress them. We have come to you with a sign from your sustainer, and peace will be upon those who follow guidance. Verily it has been revealed to us that punishment will befall those who deny the truth and turn away." Pharaoh said, "Who then is your sustainer, O Moses?" He replied, "Our sustainer is the one who gave everything its form and then guided it." Pharaoh said, "What about the previous generations?" Moses replied, "Their knowledge is with my sustainer in a record. My sustainer neither errs nor forgets." Surah Taha 20:47-52. Once again, we see him arguing with Pharaoh and his people, declaring this truth that filled his heart and life and encompassed the existence around him. Pharaoh said, "What is the sustainer of all the worlds?" Moses replied, "The sustainer of the heavens and the earth and everything between them, if only you had sure faith." Pharaoh said to those around him, "Do you hear what he says?" Moses said, "Your sustainer and the sustainer of your forefathers." Pharaoh said, "Indeed, your messenger who has been sent to you is truly insane." Moses replied, "He is the sustainer of the east and the west and everything between them, if only you had reason." Surah Ash-Shu'ara 26:23-28. Now we are stunned by the brilliance of this truth in Moses' heart, as he and the children of Israel find themselves in a situation where eyes are dazzled and hearts tremble. Before them is the sea, and behind them are Pharaoh and his army. No escape seems possible, no way out appears in sight, but Moses' heart, connected to his sustainer, is tranquil and assured with absolute certainty in his sustainer. And we revealed to Moses, "Set forth with my servants by night, for you will be pursued." Then Pharaoh sent heralds to the cities, proclaiming, "These Israelites are but a small band, and they have surely enraged us. And indeed we are all on guard." So they pursued them at sunrise. And when the two groups saw each other, the companions of Moses said, "Indeed, we are overtaken." Moses replied, "No, my sustainer is with me, and he will guide me." Surah Ash-Shu'ara 26:52-62. How? Moses did not ask how. He was certain that his sustainer was with him, certain that his sustainer would guide him. He was sure that his sustainer would protect him, even though he did not know the way or the means. But what did it matter? What did it matter when he was in such company? When he had absolute certainty in his sustainer, and his sustainer fulfilled his promise, doing for Moses what he could not have known. Then we inspired Moses, "Strike the sea with your staff." So it parted, and each part was like a towering mountain. Then we drew the others near, and we saved Moses and those with him altogether. Then we drowned the others. Surah Ash-Shu'ara 26:63-66. We will suffice with these glimpses of the manifestations of this truth in the heart of Moses. Peace be upon him. But before we leave this scene, we must pause in awe and wonder and admiration before the scene of this truth in the hearts of the sorcerers. The truth touched them with a single sudden touch, and it transformed them into a new creation, bringing about a remarkable transformation. Pharaoh had gathered the sorcerers to confront Moses, and they came, hoping to gain favor and reward from Pharaoh. But once the overwhelming truth touched their hearts, they became a different people altogether, standing before the tyrant Pharaoh, in the height of his power and amidst his court, unafraid, speaking the word of truth with dignity and courage. They feared neither Pharaoh's might nor his punishment, nor did they care for his kingdom or his tyranny. It is a magnificent scene, depicting the manifestation of this truth in the hearts of this group of believers, and it is a miracle of faith, brilliantly portrayed in the Quranic narrative. So the sorcerers were assembled for an appointed meeting on a well-known day, and the people were asked, "Will you all gather so that we may follow the sorcerers if they are victorious?" When the sorcerers came, they said to Pharaoh, "Will we really have a reward if we are victorious?" He replied, "Yes, and you will certainly be among those nearest to me." Moses said to them, "Throw down whatever you are going to throw." So they threw down their ropes and staffs, saying, "By Pharaoh's might we will surely be victorious." Then Moses threw his staff, and behold, it devoured what they had fabricated. So the sorcerers fell down in prostration. They said, "We believe in the sustainer of all the worlds, the sustainer of Moses and Aaron." Pharaoh said, "You believed in him before I gave you permission? Indeed, he is your leader who taught you magic, so I will surely cut off your hands and feet on opposite sides, and I will surely crucify you all." They replied, "No harm? Indeed, to our sustainer we will return. We hope that our sustainer will forgive us our sins, as we were the first to believe. Surah Ash-Shu'ara 26, 38, 51. Indeed, there is no harm in this abundant goodness. In another context, we find a more detailed account of this noble group of people, in which there is a clear disregard for Pharaoh's power and a belittling of the scope and authority he holds in comparison to the truth they are about to embrace, the truth of God Almighty and his dominion. And the sorcerers fell down in prostration. They said, "We believe in the sustainer of Aaron and Moses." Pharaoh said, "You believed in him before I gave you permission. Surely he is your chief who taught you sorcery. So I will surely cut off your hands and feet on opposite sides, and I will surely crucify you on the trunks of palm trees, and you will surely know which of us is more severe in punishment and more enduring." They said, "We will never prefer you over the clear signs that have come to us, nor over him who created us. So decree whatever you desire to decree. You can only decree concerning this life of the world. Indeed, we have believed in our sustainer, that he may forgive us our sins and what you compelled us to do in the way of sorcery. And God is better and more enduring. Verily, whoever comes to his sustainer as a criminal will have hell, wherein he will neither die nor live. But whoever comes to him as a believer, having done righteous deeds, those will have the highest ranks, gardens of perpetual residence beneath which rivers flow, abiding therein forever. That is the reward of those who purify themselves. Surah Taha 20, 70, 76. Thus they declared, "We will never prefer you over the clear signs that have come to us, nor over him who created us. So decree whatever you desire to decree." What power do you truly have over us? Your decree holds no sway except in this fleeting life. And what is this worldly life compared to what awaits us with our sustainer? Indeed, we have believed in our sustainer, that he may forgive us our sins and what you compelled us to do in the way of sorcery, and God is better and more enduring. So what are you and what are your decrees, your world, or your rewards and punishments compared to what God holds for us? What meaning does your torment hold compared to God's punishment? Verily, whoever comes to his sustainer as a criminal will have hell, wherein he will neither die nor live. But whoever comes to him as a believer, having done righteous deeds, those will have the highest ranks, gardens of perpetual residence beneath which rivers flow, abiding therein forever. That is the reward of those who purify themselves. It is a clear, comprehensive vision of the sublime, overwhelming truth revealed in one sudden and direct moment. Let us now pause with Jesus, peace be upon him, for a brief moment as his heart overflows with this truth on that great and solemn day. And on Judgment Day, God will say, "O Jesus, Son of Mary, did you say to the people, 'Take me and my mother as deities besides God'?" He will say, "Glory be to you. It was not for me to say what I had no right to say. Had I said it, you would have known it. You know what is within me, and I do not know what is within you. Truly, you alone are the knower of all that is beyond human perception. I said nothing to them except what you commanded me to say. Worship God, my sustainer and your sustainer. And I was a witness over them as long as I was among them. But when you took me, you were the observer over them, and you are a witness to all things. If you punish them, they are indeed your servants, but if you forgive them, you are indeed almighty wise. Surah Al-Ma'idah 5, 116, 118. In the same way, we select but one manifestation of this truth, in the soul of Muhammad, the seal of the prophets, peace and blessings be upon him. From a life that was all manifestations of this radiant, unparalleled truth in its utmost clarity. We choose the scene of this truth in the pure soul of the messenger. Peace and blessings be upon him when he returned from Taif. He had gone there to seek the support of the tribe of Thaqif after the death of his uncle Abu Talib and his wife Khadija, and after the intensification of persecution against him and the Muslims in Mecca. But Thaqif rejected him in the most disgraceful manner, inciting the foolish and the children to pelt him with stones until his feet bled. Peace and blessings be upon him. In this state he turned to his sustainer with this profoundly moving and noble supplication. O God, to you I complain of my weakness, my lack of resources, and my lowliness before men. O most merciful of the merciful, you are the sustainer of the oppressed, and you are my sustainer. To whom will you entrust me? To someone distant who will frown upon me, or to an enemy to whom you have given power over my affairs? If you are not angry with me, I care not, but your protection is more expansive for me. I seek refuge in the light of your face, by which the darkness is illuminated, and the affairs of this world and the hereafter are set right. From your wrath descending upon me, or your displeasure befalling me, yours is the reproach until you are pleased. There is no power and no strength except in you. We are unable to proceed further in recounting the magnificent scenes in which the reality of divinity, nature of Godhood, manifests itself in the hearts of God's chosen ones, this elite group of his servants, including the angels, the prophets, the truthful ones, the martyrs, and the righteous. The Quranic context is filled with such scenes, and we have not yet touched upon those in the hearts of the angels, the martyrs, or many of the truthful and righteous, whose stories are abundant in the Quran. What we have presented here is but an indication of the rest, and it suffices for this study, which does not specialize in them. Indeed, the Quran has presented the reality of divinity in the hearts of this select group, and it has displayed it in the most beautiful and purest manner, alongside its manifestations in the universe, the self, life and history, both in the unseen world and the visible realm. And through this, people were introduced to this unparalleled understanding. It is from this divine institution that the Muslim community emerged, a community that changed the course of history, through which God brought about his will on earth. This community was the veil for God's decree and the manifestation of his power. Barriers that humans usually consider insurmountable crumbled before them, and all familiar calculations that people usually rely on to measure events and circumstances were overturned. The established norms that people held as absolute truths were rendered null, and from here, in this divine institution, the new human was born. The human who worships God alone, and is thus liberated from all servitude to others. It is from here, through this immense truth, not through material developments or the inevitabilities of history, that this transformation took place. In conclusion, what do we ultimately grasp from the Quranic presentation of the reality of divinity, nature of Godhood, in Islamic thought? We must hasten to say that this truth cannot be fully grasped through mere words, no matter how eloquent, as it is best revealed through the Quranic exposition itself. This is a point we have emphasized before, but it is more necessary here than ever before we attempt to summarize this truth. Whoever seeks to understand this truth in its entirety must turn to the Quran itself. It is only in this source that one can perceive this truth in all its magnificent beauty, radiant brilliance, and comprehensive scope. Here, the reader is advised to review the earlier pages of this chapter before proceeding to the next section. We have presented samples of the Quranic method of elucidating this truth in its various aspects. However, what we have offered is only a handful of examples. We cannot, within a single book, present everything found in the entire Quran. Nevertheless, we can urge seekers of this truth to search for it throughout the Quran. What emerges from this review of the Quranic method in introducing the reality of divinity is that the focus is not on proving the existence of God. The existence of God is a fundamental truth embedded in human nature. It becomes obscured only when human nature is wholly corrupted, beyond the point where external evidence can be of any use. In such cases, the innate faculties of reception and perception within the human being are disrupted, requiring a process of revival that only God's will can bring about. This is the state referred to in certain Quranic verses, such as, "The living and the dead are not equal. Indeed, God causes whomever he wills to hear, but you cannot make those in the graves hear. You are but a warner." Surah Fatir 35, 22, 23. Truly, you cannot make the dead hear, nor can you make the deaf hear the call when they turn away and retreat, nor can you guide the blind out of their misguidance. You can only make those hear you who believe in our signs and have surrendered themselves to God. Surah Ar-Rum 30, 52, 53. Can you make the deaf hear or guide the blind, or those who are in manifest error? Surah Az-Zukhruf 43, 40. Even if we opened to them a gate from the heavens and they continued to ascend through it, they would surely say, "Our eyes have been dazzled. Rather, we are a people bewitched." Surah Al-Hijr 15, 14, 15. And even if we had sent down to you a book written on parchment so that they could touch it with their hands, those who disbelieve would still say, "This is nothing but obvious magic." Surah Al-An'am 6, 7. This disruption of the innate faculties of reception and perception, this state of death, deafness and blindness, is what afflicts the deniers of God's existence in the modern age. It explains the condition of materialists with all their varying schools and theories. It is an abnormal state for human beings, and its end is extinction, like all abnormal states that cannot sustain life. This has been detailed previously. The focus of the Quranic method is not on proving the existence of God, but rather on defining his existence in its true essence and correcting the distortions, misconceptions, and falsehoods that have tainted human understanding of this existence. Human nature, in its basic instinct, acknowledges the existence of God, but it errs in understanding the true nature of this existence, its attributes, and its relationship to creation and the universe. What is striking and astonishing is that the Quranic correction does not only address the distortions, misconceptions, and falsehoods that afflicted human understanding before the revelation of the Quran. It also addresses all such distortions that have arisen in subsequent eras, including modern times, with remarkable prescience. And this focus is not limited to the delusions of materialists who deny God's existence altogether. Just as the Quran corrected the beliefs in polytheism, dualism, and the deification of celestial bodies, spirits, and natural phenomena, beliefs that were prevalent in the Arabian Peninsula and its surroundings, it also addressed the beliefs in Hindu cosmology and eternity, the pantheism of Aristotle and Plotinus, the idealism of Plato and its extension in Schopenhauer's philosophy in modern times, the intermediary philosophies of Plotinus and their erroneous incorporation into so-called Islamic philosophy by thinkers like Ibn Rushd and Al-Farabi, the absurdity of modern existentialism, the Cartesian dualism, the vitalism of Bergson, and the materialism of Parmenides in ancient times and Karl Marx in the modern age. We will explain these in detail later. The Quranic focus from the outset is on monotheism, not merely on the existence of God. God is a singular, indivisible being. He does not multiply, divide, or merge with other beings, nor does he intermingle with them in any form of fusion or interpenetration. This singular being is characterized by attributes that are uniquely his, shared by none. From the oneness of God's being and the uniqueness of his attributes emerges the oneness of his creative and governing power in the universe and all within it. He alone is the creator, the sustainer, the owner, the provider, and the regulator of all affairs. He alone holds authority and dominion over this world and the hereafter. The Quranic method of introducing the reality of divinity or nature of Godhood is unparalleled in its comprehensiveness, precision, and clarity. Say, He is God, the one God, the eternal, absolute. He begets not, nor is he begotten, and there is none comparable to him. Surah Al-Ikhlas 112, 1-4. To God belongs the highest similitude, and he is the Almighty, the Wise. Surah An-Nahl 16:60. Do not coin likenesses for God. Indeed, God knows, and you do not know. Surah An-Nahl 16:74. There's nothing like unto him, and he is the all-hearing, the all-seeing. Surah Ash-Shura 42:11. Sustainer of the heavens and the earth and all that is between them, so worship him and remain steadfast in his worship. Do you know of any who is comparable to him? Surah Maryam 19:65. God is a singular being. He does not multiply, divide, or merge with other beings. He does not intermingle with them in any form of fusion or interpenetration. God has said, do not take two deities. He is but one God, so fear me alone. Surah An-Nahl 16:51. Had there been gods in the heavens and the earth besides God, they would both have been ruined. Exalted is God, sustainer of the throne, above what they describe. Surah Al-Anbiya 21:22. Say, if there were, as they claim, other gods besides him, they would have sought a way to displace the sustainer of the throne. Glory be to him. He is far above what they say. The seven heavens and the earth and all that is within them glorify him. There is nothing that does not extol his praise, but you do not understand their glorification. Truly, he is forbearing, forgiving. Surah Al-Isra 17:42-44. They have certainly disbelieved who say God is one of three, but there is no God except one God. Surah Al-Ma'idah 5:73. They have certainly disbelieved who say God is the Messiah, the Son of Mary. Say, who then could prevent God if he intended to destroy the Messiah, the Son of Mary, his mother, and everyone on earth? Surah Al-Ma'idah 5:17. Just as God is the only deity, he alone is the ever-living, unaffected by death or slumber. He is the living one. There is no deity except him, so call upon him, devoting your religion entirely to him. Praise be to God, sustainer of all the worlds. Surah Ghafir 40:65. God, there is no deity except him, the ever-living, the sustainer of all existence. Neither drowsiness nor sleep overtakes him. Surah Al-Baqarah 2:255. And rely upon the ever-living who does not die, and exalt him with his praise. Surah Al-Furqan 25:58. There is no deity except him. Everything will perish except his face. Surah Al-Qasas 28:88. Everyone on earth will perish, but the face of your sustainer, full of majesty and honor, will remain. Surah Ar-Rahman 55:26-27. He alone is the all-knowing, and to him alone belongs absolute knowledge. With him are the keys of the unseen. None knows them except him. He knows what is on the land and in the sea. Not a leaf falls but that he knows it, and no grain is there within the darknesses of the earth, and nothing moist or dry but that it is written in a clear record. Surah Al-An'am 6:59. He is knower of the unseen, and he does not disclose his knowledge of the unseen to anyone. Surah Al-Jinn 72:26. Say, none in the heavens and earth knows the unseen except God. Surah An-Naml 27:65. It may be that you dislike something and it is good for you, and it may be that you love something and it is bad for you. God knows and you do not know. Surah Al-Baqarah 2:216. I know what you do not know. Surah Al-Baqarah 2:30. He alone is the all-powerful, the dominant above his servants, the one who does whatever he wills with an absolute and unbounded will. To him alone belongs judgment, both in the heavens and on earth, in this world and the hereafter, without any challenger or partner. Shall I take any protector other than God, the originator of the heavens and the earth, who gives sustenance but is not sustained? Say, I have been commanded to be the first to submit, and do not be of those who associate others with him. Say, I fear if I disobey my sustainer the punishment of a tremendous day. Whoever is spared from it on that day has been shown mercy, and that is the clear triumph. If God touches you with harm, none can remove it but he. And if he touches you with good, he is powerful over everything. He is dominant over his servants, and he is the all-wise, the all-aware. Surah Al-An'am 6:14-18. Say, who holds in his hand the dominion of all things, and grants protection without any being able to protect against him, if you know. Surah Al-Mu'minun 23:88. They will say it is God. Say, how then are you deluded? Do they not see that we bring the earth to diminution from its borders, while God rules with none to reverse his judgment, and he is swift in reckoning? Surah Ar-Ra'd 13:41. He is the exalted in rank, the sustainer of the throne. He casts the spirit of his command upon whomever he wills from among his servants, to warn them of the day of meeting. On the day they will emerge from their graves, nothing of them will be hidden from God. To whom belongs all dominion on this day? To God, the One, the Overpowering. On this day, every soul will be recompensed for what it has earned. No injustice will be done on that day. Verily, God is swift in reckoning. Warn them of the coming day when hearts will rise to the throat, choking them. The wrongdoers will have no close friend, nor any intercessor who is obeyed. He knows the treachery of the eyes and what the breasts conceal, and God judges with the truth. But those they invoke besides him judge nothing. Verily, God is the all-hearing, the all-seeing. Surah Ghafir 40:16-20. Thus is God creator of what he wills. When he decrees a matter, he only says to it, be, and it is. Surah Al-Imran 3:47. Thus, the Quranic method proceeds in affirming the oneness of the divine essence and in emphasizing the uniqueness of his attributes. The entire Quran is a display of this oneness and singularity. We cannot continue citing every attribute of God Almighty, but we will focus on particular aspects that the Quran itself emphasizes. God, in his wisdom, has chosen to highlight these aspects for his servants, so that they may come to know him in a manner that is clear, precise and beneficial for their lives, both in this world and in the hereafter. The emphasis is clear on the attributes of creation, giving life, sustenance, guardianship, management, authority, knowledge, and all-encompassing power. And thus, it singles out the one who possesses these attributes as the sole deity and sustainer, with no partner in his divinity or sustainership. The reference to God's uniqueness in creation and giving life is repeated and made manifest throughout the Quran. But these references are not made to prove the existence of God as occurred in Christian theology, Islamic scholastic theology, or certain philosophies. The existence of God in the Quranic method is a self-evident truth ingrained in the human disposition. These references come to emphasize God's singularity in divinity and sustainership. Since he alone is the creator, the one who gives life, he alone must be the deity to whom worship is directed and the sustainer to whom obedience is given. The Quranic methodology in this regard is unique and distinct in its approach, and from this it becomes clear that what later came to be known as the science of monotheism or Islamic scholastic theology, kalam, is foreign to the true Quranic method. It was influenced by Aristotelian logic, theological disputation and abstract philosophy more than by the pure Quranic approach. Likewise, what has been termed Islamic philosophy is also distant from the essence of the Quran. God Almighty is the creator of this universe and everything within it. He brought it into existence after it was nothing. Likewise, he is the one who created life and spread it among the lifeless. He is the one who changes, transforms, develops, and modifies the creatures and the living beings. He is the one who sustains and preserves this universe, providing for all living things and managing all affairs with his unbounded will, beyond the fixed laws of nature. He is the one who causes death and destruction just as he gives life and resurrects as he wills. Every event that occurs is by a specific decree in accordance with his supreme will which governs the cosmic laws. These laws do not confine him nor bind him, and they do not operate in a mechanical necessity. Every occurrence is by a precise decree from God, who acts with all-encompassing knowledge and wisdom. This is a brief summary of the Quranic depiction of the relationship between the universe and God, and the operation of his will and decree within it. It is, however, an inadequate summary compared to the Quranic texts that portray this immense truth in a manner that surpasses human attempts to express it. Therefore, we leave the Quranic texts to speak for themselves about this grand reality, for their expression is unrivaled. Some of these verses will be repeated in this study because they carry multiple meanings and diverse implications. This is a distinctive feature of all Quranic texts. They appear ever fresh and original every time they are cited in varied contexts. Praise be to God who created the heavens and the earth and made darkness and light. Yet those who disbelieve ascribe equals to their sustainer. He is the one who created you from clay and decreed a term for you. A known term is with him, yet you still doubt. He is God in the heavens and on earth. He knows your secrets and what you reveal, and he knows what you earn. No sign from their sustainer comes to them, but they turn away from it. They have denied the truth when it came to them, but soon they will be informed of that which they used to mock. Do they not see how many generations we have destroyed before them, whom we had established on the earth as we have not established you? We sent the sky upon them in continuous rain and made rivers flow beneath them. Then we destroyed them for their sins and raised up after them another generation. Surah Al-An'am 6:1-6. Verily, God is the one who splits the seed and the date stone. He brings forth the living from the dead and brings forth the dead from the living. That is God. How then are you deluded? He is the one who causes the dawn to break and made the night for rest, and the sun and the moon for reckoning. That is the determination of the Almighty, the All-Knowing. He is the one who made the stars for you, so you may be guided by them in the darkness of the land and the sea. We have made clear the signs for those who have knowledge. And he is the one who created you from a single soul, and from it he made its mate to dwell with it. We have explained the signs for those who understand. He is the one who sends down water from the sky, and we bring forth with it vegetation of every kind. From it we produce greenery, from which we bring forth grain in layers, and from the date palm emerge clusters of low-hanging dates and gardens of grapes, olives and pomegranates, similar yet different. Look at their fruits when they bear fruit and when they ripen. Indeed, in these are signs for a people who believe. Surah Al-An'am 6:95-99. Yet they have made the jinn partners with God, though he created them, and they falsely attribute to him sons and daughters without knowledge. Glory be to him, and exalted is he above what they ascribe. He is the originator of the heavens and the earth. How could he have a son when he has no consort? He created all things, and he is all-knowing of everything. That is God, your sustainer. There is no deity but him, the creator of all things. So worship him, for he is the disposer of all affairs. No vision can grasp him, but he grasps all vision, and he is the most subtle, the all-aware. Surah Al-An'am 6:100-103. Praise be to God who raised the heavens without pillars that you can see. Then he established himself over the throne. He subjected the sun and the moon, each running for a specified term. He manages the affair, explains the signs, so that you may be certain of meeting your sustainer. He is the one who spread out the earth and placed therein firm mountains and rivers, and from every fruit he made two kinds. He causes the night to cover the day. Indeed, in these are signs for a people who reflect. And within the earth are neighbouring tracts, gardens of grapes, crops and date palms, some of which are clustered and others unclustered. They are watered with the same water, yet we make some exceed others in fruit. Indeed, in these are signs for a people who reason. Surah Arad 13:2-4. Say, praise be to God and peace be upon his servants whom he has chosen. Is God better, or what they associate with him? Is he not the one who created the heavens and the earth and sent down for you water from the sky, by which we caused to grow gardens of splendid beauty? You could not have caused their trees to grow yourselves. Is there any deity with God? Yet they are a people who ascribe equals to him. Is he not the one who answers the distressed when they call upon him, and removes evil, and makes you inheritors of the earth? Is there any deity with God? How little you reflect! Is he not the one who guides you through the darkness of the land and sea, and who sends the winds as heralds of his mercy? Is there any deity with God? Exalted is God above what they associate with him. Surah An-Naml 27:59-63. So glorify God when you enter the evening and when you enter the morning. To him belongs all praise in the heavens and the earth, and in the late afternoon, and when the day begins to decline. He brings forth the living from the dead, and the dead from the living, and he gives life to the earth after its death. Thus will you be brought forth. Surah Ar-Rum 30:17-19. And among his signs is that he created you from dust, and behold, you became human beings spreading out. And among his signs is that he created for you from yourselves mates, that you may find tranquility in them. And he placed between you affection and mercy. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who reflect. And among his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the diversity of your languages and colours. Indeed, in that are signs for those of knowledge. And among his signs is your sleep by night and day, and your seeking of his bounty. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who listen. And among his signs is that he shows you the lightning, causing fear and hope, and he sends down rain from the sky, reviving the earth after its death. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who reason. And among his signs is that the heavens and the earth stand firm by his command. Then when he calls you forth from the earth with a single call, behold, you will come forth. To him belongs whoever is in the heavens and the earth. All are devoutly obedient to him. He is the one who begins creation and then repeats it, and that is easier for him. His is the highest description in the heavens and the earth, and he is the Almighty, the All-Wise. Surah Ar-Rum 30:20-27. Oh, the pity for mankind! No messenger comes to them, but they mock him. Have they not seen how many generations we destroyed before them, and they do not return to them? And all of them will surely be gathered before us. Surah Yasin 36:30-32. And a sign for them is the dead earth. We give it life and bring forth from it grain, from which they eat. And we place therein gardens of date palms and grapevines, and cause springs to gush forth from it, so that they may eat of its fruit and what their hands have made. Will they not then give thanks? Glory be to the one who created all pairs, from what the earth grows, from themselves, and from what they do not know. And a sign for them is the night. We strip from it the day, and behold, they are in darkness. And the sun runs its course to a fixed term. That is the decree of the Almighty, the All-Knowing. And the moon, we have determined for it phases until it returns like the old date stalk. It is not for the sun to overtake the moon, nor for the night to outstrip the day. All swim along in their orbits. Surah Yasin 36:33-40. Have you considered the seed you sow? Is it you who make it grow, or are we the grower? If we willed, we could turn it to chaff, and you would remain in wonder, saying, we have suffered loss, nay, we are deprived. Have you considered the water that you drink? Is it you who send it down from the clouds, or are we the sender? If we willed, we could make it bitter, so why are you not grateful? Have you considered the fire that you kindle? Is it you who produce its trees, or are we the producer? We have made it a reminder and provision for the travellers, so glorify the name of your sustainer, the Most Great. Surah Al-Waqi'ah 56, 63, 74. We have indeed adorned the sky with constellations and made them pleasing to the beholders. And we have protected it from every accursed devil except one who steals a hearing, and he is pursued by a clear flaming fire. And the earth, we have spread it out and placed therein firm mountains, and caused to grow therein every well-balanced thing. And we have made for you therein livelihoods, and for those whom you do not provide. Surah Al-Hijr 15, 16, 20. We did not create the heavens and the earth and all that is between them except in truth and for an appointed term. But those who disbelieve turn away from the warnings they have been given. Say, have you considered what you invoke besides God? Show me what they have created of the earth. Or do they have a share in the heavens? Bring me a book before this, or any remnant of knowledge, if you are truthful. And who could be more astray than he who invokes instead of God, such as will not respond to him until the day of resurrection, and who are even unaware of their supplication? And when all mankind is gathered together, those false objects of worship will become their enemies and will reject their worship. Surah Al-Ahqaf 46:3, 6. He created the heavens without any pillars that you can see. And he placed firm mountains upon the earth, lest it should shake with you. And he spread on it all kinds of creatures. And we sent down water from the sky, and we caused to grow therein every noble kind of life. This is the creation of God. So show me what those you worship besides him have created. Nay, but the wrongdoers are in manifest error. Surah Luqman 31:10-11. We shall suffice with these 10 verses of the Quranic discourse and then attempt to see how they correct some of the misguided notions about the reality of divinity, nature of Godhood, and the relationship between this universe and its creator, whether in ancient or modern times. God, glorified and exalted is He, as these verses assert, created this universe and everything in it, both inanimate and animate. He brought it into existence through His will and by His command. The universe does not exist by its own essence, as modern materialism would have us believe, a notion that in truth follows in the footsteps of ancient paganism, with its fanciful ideas unsupported by any scientific basis. The concept of the universe existing by itself is not only scientifically unfounded, but it is also logically rejected by the human intellect, whose very nature demands that this harmonious, interdependent creation must have a purposeful creator who brought it into being. The universe itself is devoid of will, and thus it must have been brought into existence by a will that chose to create it in the form that we now see. This is the self-evident logic of the human mind, and it is precisely what the Quran confirms and emphasizes. Moreover, God, glorified and exalted is He, created this universe with full consciousness and intention, bringing it forth in the precise form He willed. It is not, as Aristotle claimed, that God did not will the creation of the universe because He is self-sufficient and has no need for anything beyond Himself. Aristotle argued that since creating the universe would not add anything to God's perfection, it was unnecessary for Him to create it, suggesting that if the universe had been necessary to God's perfection, then His perfection would have been incomplete without it. According to Aristotle, the universe moved from a state of potential existence to actual existence because of its longing for the necessary being, God. But what Aristotle, the greatest of philosophers, presents is nothing more than human conjecture, unsupported by any sound reasoning. He projects human characteristics onto God, assuming that God's creative act must be based on a need, as is the case with humans. But God's creation of the universe does not imply any deficiency in His essence, nor does it place any burden upon Him. For God alone knows the wisdom behind His creation, and His actions are beyond human comprehension. Furthermore, Aristotle's claim that the universe, before coming into existence, moved from the potential to the actual because of its longing for God, raises baffling questions. How can something that does not exist have a will or desire? And if the universe did not exist, how could it possess the capacity for longing or movement? These are weak and baseless ideas, leaving one to wonder how they could come from the mind of one of the greatest philosophers, until one remembers that when the human mind ventures beyond its proper domain, as philosophy often does, it produces nothing but fragile and flawed notions. Similarly, God breathed life into the lifeless and brought forth the living from the dead. Life is not an inherent property of the universe's matter, as all materialist doctrines, including Darwinism, would have us believe without offering any proof that even the human mind can accept. For if life were a natural property of matter, how could this property have remained dormant for countless millions of years, as they claim the universe has existed, without manifesting itself until relatively recently? And how could this life emerge without any conscious will behind its appearance? The human mind, by its very logic, rejects such a notion. Darwin, in his denial of any divine agency behind the emergence of life, had no scientific basis for his rejection. He overstepped the bounds of his own field of inquiry, which was confined to the study of life's evolution after it had already appeared. On what then did he base his denial? What compelled him to step beyond the bounds of his own knowledge? There is no plausible explanation, other than the deep-seated desire to escape from the oppressive authority of the Church, and, by extension, from God Himself. Karl Marx did the same when he sought to give his economic theory the appearance of a scientific doctrine rooted in the nature of the universe. But how can the emergence of life in matter be explained without acknowledging a cause beyond both matter and life itself? Due to the weakness of materialistic ideas, including those of Darwin and Marx, Contemporary American philosopher Will Durant attempted to attribute life to matter from the very beginning. He argued that the vibrations of electrons in atoms represent a form of life, and that certain salts exhibit movements that resemble life, which then evolve into higher forms of life, culminating in human consciousness. But the question of life remains unanswered, just as the fundamental question of the existence of the universe remains unresolved. For if life is a property of matter, how can its manifestations vary so widely, from mere vibrations in electrons to the complex life of humans, without a conscious will directing this diversity? Why, for example, does life express itself in the form of simple vibrations in some materials, primitive movements in certain salts, rudimentary life in amoebas, and complex life in humans? What or who determines this diversity and arranges it across the various forms of matter? Moreover, life itself is not a conscious creator, as philosopher Henri Bergson, celebrated by some as the philosopher of the spiritual, would have us believe. Despite the acclaim he receives from opponents of materialism, including some Muslims who mistakenly praise him for his supposed spiritual insights, Bergson's ideas are nothing more than imaginative flights of fancy, unsupported by any scientific, rational, or natural foundation. He speaks of life's routine progression, its creative leaps, the religion of rest and the religion of movement, and similar abstract concepts. Through Bergson's lens, life appears as if it were an eternal, conscious and creative force, manifesting itself first in instinctual organisms, reaching its pinnacle in creatures like ants and bees. When life, according to Bergson, reaches a point of stagnation in these instinctual creatures where no further development is possible, it doesn't continue along the path of evolution, as Darwin claimed. Instead, life makes a creative leap, producing higher forms of existence. The apes, he argues, were the final leap in vertebrate evolution, where life once again reached a dead end. Then, life made another creative leap, manifesting in the human being. And within humanity itself, life continued this progression, not in the physical form of the human body, but in the spiritual and intellectual realm. Life first entrusted humans to their instincts to preserve their existence, establishing social relationships and moral codes that suited their survival. But then, without foresight or understanding of the consequences, life granted humans reason, a tool that elevated them but also became a danger to their very existence. For reason, with its abstract nature, began to question the purpose of life, the value of life in the face of death, and the necessity of procreation when death is the inevitable end of all living beings. Thus, reason began to unravel the bonds and motivations that instinct had created to preserve human existence. At this point, life, sensing the danger posed by reason, the very tool it had bestowed upon humanity, turned to counter this threat by constructing a religion and morality akin to instinct. But since humanity had already advanced through reason, the logic of instinct could no longer satisfy them. Life was thus compelled to cloak this religion and morality in rational garb, making them acceptable to the evolved human being. However, true to its nature, life did not stop at this impasse. It made another creative leap beyond instinct, beyond reason, beyond the religion of rest and the morality of rest, manifesting itself in the religion of movement and the morality of movement as exemplified by Jesus and the true mystics who followed him. And lest we forget, Jesus, as Bergson highlights, was a prophet of Israel, and Bergson himself was Jewish. Thus, philosophy once again serves as a subtle, seemingly innocent form of propaganda for Jewish interests, as you can see. Even some advocates of Islamic movements have fallen for this, lauding Bergson as the philosopher of spirituality against materialism. But let us examine this concept of life upon which Bergson builds his philosophy. What is this life that it should possess such creative power in the material world, manifesting itself in various forms, sometimes remaining dormant in a circular orbit, only to leap forward suddenly beyond its static state? What is life? And where was it before it began creating these wonders in the material world? Where was it before it manifested in these static or moving forms? These are questions that neither Bergson nor any other human can answer, for these notions are nothing more than speculative ideas unsupported by anything but conjecture. They follow nothing but conjecture, and they do nothing but guess. Surah Al-An'am 6. 116. God, glorified and exalted is He, created everything and every living being by His will, and His decree was executed according to His will, without the aid of intermediaries from His creation or assistance from any other. He is the creator of all things, directly by His word. Our command is but one word, like the twinkling of an eye. Surah Al-Qamar 54:50. God did not create reason, which then created the soul, which in turn created matter, as Plotinus claimed, followed by those mistakenly called Islamic philosophers, who added even more intermediaries, asserting that the universal intellect created the universal soul, which then created individual souls and so on down the line of their fanciful constructs. Nor did God, glorified be He, have any helper from His creation, just as He has no partner in His dominion. I did not make them witness the creation of the heavens and the earth, nor their own creation. Surah Al-Kahf 18:51. Say, call upon those whom you claim besides God. They do not possess even an atom's weight in the heavens or on the earth, nor do they have any share in either, nor is any of them a helper for Him. Surah Sabah 34:22. God created everything and every living being in the precise form He willed, according to the measure He determined. The material substance of creation did not resist His will, producing a form that fell short of His intended design, as Plato suggested with his notion of an ideal form and an imperfect image. Nor is there any absolute goodness in the necessary being and absolute evil in matter, as Plotinus claimed, whereby the creations would contain goodness from God and evil from matter. The universe is neither an idea nor a will, as Schopenhauer would have it, where the idea is perfect, but the will is flawed. Matter is created by God, and the form it takes is also created by God. Both form and matter are subject to His will, and their existence is realized according to His decree, just as He willed and ordained. Pharaoh said, "And who is your sustainer, O Moses?" He said, "Our sustainer is He who gave everything its form and then guided it." Surah Taha 20:49-50. Glorify the name of your sustainer, the Most High, who created and fashioned in due proportion, who destined and guided. Surah Al-Alā 87:1-3. O man, what has deceived you concerning your generous sustainer, who created you, fashioned you, and proportioned you? In whatever form He willed, He assembled you. Surah Al-Infitar 82:6-8. And your sustainer creates whatever He wills and chooses. Surah Al-Qasas 28:68. Indeed, He it is who originates and brings back creation, and He is the forgiving, the loving, the sustainer of the throne, the glorious. Surah Al-Buruj 85:13-15. God created all things and all living beings by His will and intention, and the realization of their creation and existence came to pass by His specific decree. Thus, there is no place in this universe for blind chance, just as there is no place for mechanical determinism. There is no room for blind chance, because every event that occurs is brought about by a specific decree of God. Indeed, we created everything according to a measure, and our command is but one word, like the twinkling of an eye. Surah Al-Qamar 54:49-50. No calamity befalls on the earth or in yourselves, but it is inscribed in the book of decrees before we bring it into existence. Surah Al-Hadid 57:22. And everything we have enumerated in a clear record. Surah Yasin 36:12. Say nothing will befall us except what God has decreed for us. Surah At-Tawbah 9:51. No calamity befalls except by the permission of God. Surah At-Takabun 64:11. Thus, fall away all the philosophical or scientific claims that assert, for example, that the earth came into existence by mere chance, and that life itself is accidental, alien to the universe, unaccounted for in its design. We shall elaborate on this when discussing the reality of the cosmos and the reality of life. Those claims that contend life proceeds blindly, stumbling along its path with many errors, excesses, and unnecessary failures, are equally refuted. Also dismissed are all notions attributing the effects in human life to mere coincidences or to forces and creations other than the will and decree of God. Nothing happens in this universe except by His permission and His decree. Just as there is no room for blind chance, there is no place for mechanical determinism either. There is indeed a cosmic order that God has embedded in the structure of the universe, which it follows. But these laws, what are often referred to as natural or cosmic laws, do not exist or function autonomously. They are realized each time by a specific decree from God for that particular instance. While God does not change the laws of the universe as a principle, this is because he wills it so. Yet his will is not bound by these fixed laws. When he wishes, for a special reason, he suspends the effect of these laws and enacts others. All miracles are examples of this truth. Likewise, on the day of judgment, he will suspend these laws and enact others. When the sun is wrapped up in darkness and when the stars fall and lose their light, Quran 81, 1, 2. Thus, all ideas that attribute effects directly to causes other than God's will and decree are overturned. Fire does not burn because of itself, but because God wills it to burn. It is his decree that in each instance allows this law of nature to manifest its effect. And when he decreed that the fire should not burn Abraham, it did not. Likewise, with all other laws of the universe and their effects upon the world and its inhabitants, it is from God's mercy towards his servants that he has established fixed laws and constant patterns in the universe, allowing them to discover, understand and interact with these laws in a stable manner. Yet it is also from his mercy that he does not make them slaves to mechanical determinism within the cosmic order. Instead, he links their hearts directly to his will and decree, freeing their souls from servitude to anything other than him, even to the natural laws he himself has created. What then of those who claim that mechanical determinism governs the universe, life and society without any divine will behind it all? Such individuals surrender themselves, and humankind, to the most degrading form of bondage imaginable. However, the vanguard of modern science in the 20th century began to extricate itself from the notion of mechanical determinism in the universe, as well as from the notion of blind chance. Scientific inquiry itself began to discover numerous instances where strict determinism does not apply, and even chance itself is governed by laws. See The Mysterious Universe by Sir James Jeans and Man Does Not Stand Alone by A. Cressy Morrison. Yet those who speak in the name of science in our Arab East still feed on the scraps of the 18th and 19th centuries, rejecting the unseen in the name of science and mocking the concept of fate, an aspect of the unseen, in the name of scientific thinking. The Islamic worldview, cultivated by the Quranic method in the consciousness of the believer, is a vision that is not only true but also beautiful. The awareness that every event in the universe is a new event, occurring by a unique divine decree, dispels the dullness of mechanical repetition and liberates one from the sense of bondage to anything but God, reminding one constantly of God's will and decree. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west from the perspective of the inhabitants of the earth because God, glorified be He, has designed the universe in such a way that this phenomenon occurs as part of his cosmic laws. But the sun does not rise and set in the east and west due to mechanical determinism. Rather, it rises and sets each time by a specific decree from God for that particular instance. There may come a day, by his will and decree, when it will neither rise nor set as it usually does. What beauty lies in this conception? What renewal and vitality does it bring? How alive is every sunrise and sunset when viewed in this light, and how constant is the connection with God and the remembrance of his power at every dawn and every dusk. And so it is with every cosmic phenomenon and every individual occurrence. This does not mean that chaos reigns in the universe, nor that we should cease uncovering the laws and principles of nature, nor stop interacting with them to enhance and elevate life. The Islamic worldview is based on the understanding that God has embedded the universe and life with fixed laws and constant patterns. But it also rescues the human spirit from the dullness of mechanical repetition and from the bondage of determinism, granting it both the benefits of stability and the freedom of purpose, without losing anything in return. Thus, the Quranic method continuously highlights God's will and decree in every phenomenon and every event, negating any other apparent causes or subordinating them to God's will and power. Have you considered the seed you sow in the ground? Is it you who cause it to grow, or are we the grower? If we willed, we could turn it into chaff, and you would be left in wonderment, saying, "We are indeed ruined. No, we are deprived." Quran 56, 63, 67. Have you considered the water you drink? Is it you who sent it down from the clouds, or are we the ones who send it down? If we willed, we could make it bitter. Why then are you not grateful? Quran 56, 68, 70. Have you considered the fire you kindle? Is it you who produced its tree, or are we the producer? We have made it a reminder and a provision for the travellers. Quran 56, 71, 73. So glorify the name of your sustainer, the most great. Quran 56, 74. And you, O believers, did not slay them, but it was God who slew them. And you, O prophet, did not throw when you threw, but it was God who threw, so that he might bestow favour upon the believers from himself. Verily, God is all-hearing, all-knowing. Quran 8:17. Remember when you were climbing up the mount, not looking back at anyone, while the messenger was calling you from behind. So God repaid you with distress for distress, that you might not grieve for what had escaped you, nor for what had befallen you. And God is all aware of what you do. Quran 3:153. No calamity befalls us except what God has decreed for us. He is our protector, and upon God let the believers rely. Quran 9:51. And you do not will unless God wills. Verily God is all-knowing, all-wise. Quran 76:30. Behind every star that rises or sets, every bud that blossoms or withers, every leaf that sprouts or falls, every spring that bubbles or dries up, every creature that is born or dies, behind every heartbeat, every flutter of the eye, every smile of the lips, every word of the tongue, every breeze that blows, every flutter of a wing, every gust of wind, every flash of lightning, every roar of a wave, every downpour of rain, behind every desire that stirs in the breast, every intention that forms in the heart, every footstep that treads the earth, every hand that reaches out to pluck, behind every motion and every pause in this vast universe from eternity to eternity, there is the hand of God that sets it all in motion, and his decree that brings it into being. Without him, nothing would be and nothing will be. What freedom and vitality, what beauty and delight, what aspiration and energy are unleashed in the heart of the believer by this vision and this awareness. What piety and purity, what intimacy and joy, what contentment and tranquility does this truth pour into the believer's heart. This vision of God's hand directing every event in the universe, every movement, and this awareness of his decree, unfolding his will and fulfilling his command, is not only a source of beauty, but also the true understanding of reality. And we send down from the Quran that which is a healing and a mercy for the believers, but it does not increase the wrongdoers except in loss. Quran 17:82. Indeed, God, exalted be He, did not create the universe and then abandon it, nor did He create life and leave it to its own devices, nor did He create living beings and forsake them to their own affairs. Aristotle, in his theory, assumed that the universe was driven by an inherent desire toward the necessary being, and thus moved from a state of potential existence to actual existence. He believed that the necessary being only contemplates the highest existence, which is itself, and therefore does not concern itself with this universe or what is within it. He considered this notion befitting for the necessary being. Plotinus followed him in this idea, believing it to be a form of exalting the necessary being, the One, by stripping it of all attributes of action and involvement. He imagined this One as being absorbed in itself, seeing nothing, feeling nothing, and unconcerned with anything beyond itself. But God, glorified and exalted be He, describes himself with attributes of action and influence, both in the creation and origination of this universe from nothing, and in his ongoing governance and management of every large and small event within it. And whose word could be truer than God's? Quran 4:87. God created everything, and He sustains it and preserves it. He created every living being, and He provides for it and sustains it. He created humanity, and He watches over them, following them with His knowledge, protection, care, grace, mercy, and authority, both in His kindness and in His might. Let us now allow the Quranic method to present this truth in its own inimitable way. Indeed, God holds the heavens and the earth, lest they cease, and if they should cease, no one could hold them aside from Him. Verily he is most forbearing, most forgiving. Quran 35:41. Do they not see the birds above them, spreading and folding their wings? None holds them up except God. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who believe. Quran 16:79. There is no creature on earth but that its provision is upon God, and he knows its place of dwelling and its place of storage. All is in a clear register. Quran 11:6. And how many a creature does not carry its provision? It is God who provides for it and for you, and he is the all-hearing, the all-knowing. Quran 29:60. And do not kill your children for fear of poverty. We provide for them and for you. Indeed, killing them is a grave sin. Quran 17:31. God's care and oversight follow his creatures. Every event that occurs does so by his specific decree, as we have mentioned before. Nothing and no one is left to blind chance, mechanical determinism, or their own whims and desires. Especially regarding humanity, the Quranic method overflows with teachings on sustenance and provision, God's encompassing knowledge of every person and his dominion over them. Each of these topics requires careful examination through the Quranic perspective. A person's provision, just like the provision of every living being, is tied solely to God. He is the one who facilitates the means for it, he is the one who withholds or grants abundance, and he is the one who either opens the gates of sustenance or closes them. Whatever mercy God opens for the people, none can withhold it, and whatever he withholds, none can release it after him. And he is the exalted in might, the all-wise. O people, remember the favour of God upon you. Is there any creator other than God who provides for you from the heavens and the earth? There is no deity except him, so how are you deluded? Quran 35:2-3. Who is it that can provide for you if he withholds his provision? Nay, but they persist in insolence and aversion. Quran 67:21. And to him belong the keys of the heavens and the earth. He extends provision for whom he wills and restricts it. Verily, he is of all things knowing. Quran 42:12. The word provision, rizq, has a far broader meaning and more subtle implications than what might initially come to mind. It does not merely refer to wealth, food, drink, clothing or shelter, the material comforts of life. It encompasses everything granted to a person, such as health, happiness, children, success in worldly or spiritual endeavours, whether intention, action or worship, or conversely, the absence of these blessings. Moreover, provision is not confined to the personal sustenance that ultimately reaches an individual. It extends to the general sources of sustenance in the universe, which are beyond human control, except insofar as God subjugates them for humanity and grants them the knowledge to utilize them through understanding the laws of nature, and then blesses them with the ability to use these resources wisely. When the Quranic method discusses provision, it frequently points to the cosmic sources and causes of sustenance. These include the creation of the heavens and the earth in the manner that God created them, the creation of humanity with its inherent capacities and faculties, and the subjugation and facilitation of natural causes for human benefit. All of this comes before discussing the distribution of personal sustenance, which pertains to the individual allocation of those universal provisions. In truth, the growth of a single grain of wheat requires the universe to be created in its present form, so that the earth's soil from which the grain grows and is nourished is available, so that the water that causes it to sprout and flourish is accessible, so that the oxygen and nitrogen it consumes are abundant, so that the appropriate warmth from the sun's rays and the necessary rest during periods of darkness are present. Dozens of factors and harmonizations embedded in the fabric of the universe and its natural phenomena are necessary for that single grain to grow. As we mentioned in the section on divinity and servitude, and as we will detail further in the sections on the reality of the universe and the reality of life, every aspect of existence is interconnected in a magnificent cosmic order, all of which is sustained and directed by God's will and decree. The Quranic method draws our attention to the cosmic causes and harmonies in the creation of the universe and mankind, inspiring us to reflect on God's provision for his servants and his care for all creation. It is God who created the heavens and the earth and sent down water from the sky, thereby producing fruits as provision for you. He made ships subservient to you so that they may sail through the sea by his command, and he made rivers subservient to you. He made the sun and the moon constant in their courses, subservient to you, and he made the night and the day subservient to you. And he gave you from all that you asked of him. If you were to count the blessings of God, you could never enumerate them. Verily, man is indeed most unjust, most ungrateful. Ibrahim 32:34. Is he not best who created the heavens and the earth, and sent down for you water from the sky, whereby we cause gardens of beauty to grow, gardens that you could not cause to grow? Is there a God with God? No, but they are a people who assign equals to him. Is he not best who made the earth a stable abode, and placed within it rivers, and set firm mountains therein, and placed a barrier between the two seas? Is there a God with God? Nay, most of them know not. Is he not best who responds to the distressed when he calls upon him, and removes the evil, and makes you inheritors of the earth? Is there a God with God? Little do you reflect. Is he not best who guides you in the darkness of the land and the sea, and who sends the winds as heralds of his mercy? Is there a God with God? Exalted is God above what they associate with him. Is he not best who originates creation, then repeats it, and who provides for you from the sky and the earth? Is there a God with God? Say, bring your proof if you are truthful. An-Namisa 60:64. He created the heavens and the earth in truth. Exalted is he above what they associate with him. He created mankind from a drop of fluid, and behold, he becomes a clear adversary. And he created the cattle for you, wherein is warmth and many benefits, and from which you eat. And there is beauty in them for you when you bring them home in the evening, and when you drive them out to pasture. And they carry your loads to a land you could not reach, except with great hardship. Verily your sustainer is most compassionate, most merciful. And he made horses, mules, and donkeys for you to ride, and as an adornment. And he creates that which you do not know. Anal 5:8. It is God who sends down water from the sky for you, from which comes drink, and from which arise trees on which you pasture your cattle. With it he causes crops to grow for you, and olives, date palms, grapes, and every kind of fruit. Verily, in this is a sign for people who reflect. And he made the night and day subservient to you, and the sun, the moon, and the stars, subservient by his command. In all of this there are signs for people who use reason. And whatsoever he has created for you on earth of varying colours, verily in this is a sign for people who take heed. It is he who made the sea subservient to you, so that you may eat from it fresh meat, and retrieve from it ornaments to wear. And you see the ships ploughing through it, so that you may seek his bounty, and perhaps you will be grateful. And he placed firm mountains upon the earth, lest it should shake with you, and rivers and pathways, so that you may find your way. And landmarks, and by the stars they find their way. Is he who creates like one who does not create? Will you not then take heed? If you were to count the blessings of God, you could never enumerate them. Verily God is most forgiving, most merciful. Anal 10:18. It is he who made the earth subservient to you, so walk in its pathways and eat of his provision, and to him is the resurrection. Do you feel secure that he who is in heaven will not cause the earth to swallow you up, and behold, it will quake? Or do you feel secure that he who is in heaven will not send against you a storm of stones? Then you will know how my warning is. And indeed those before them also denied the truth, and how terrible was my rejection. Al-Mulk 15:18. Do they not see the birds above them, spreading their wings and folding them in? None holds them except the most merciful. Verily he is of all things all-seeing. Or who is it that could be an army for you to help you apart from the most merciful? Indeed, the disbelievers are but in delusion. Or who is it that provides for you if he should withhold his provision? Nay, but they persist in insolence and aversion. Is he who walks prone on his face more rightly guided, or he who walks upright on a straight path? Say, it is he who created you and made for you hearing, sight, and hearts. Little are you grateful. Say, It is he who multiplied you upon the earth, and to him you will be gathered. Al-Mulk, 19:24. The most merciful, he taught the Quran. He created man, taught him speech. The sun and the moon keep their appointed courses, and the stars and the trees both bow down in worship. And the sky he raised high, and he set the balance, that you may not transgress in the balance, and establish weight with justice, and do not make deficient the balance. And the earth he has laid out for all living beings. Therein is fruit, and date palms with sheaths of fruit, grain with husks and fragrant plants. So which of the favours of your sustainer will you deny? Ar-Rahman 1:13. He created man from dry clay like pottery, and he created the jinn from a smokeless flame of fire. So which of the favours of your sustainer will you deny? He is the sustainer of the two easts and the two wests. So which of the favours of your sustainer will you deny? He has let loose the two seas, meeting side by side. Between them is a barrier they do not transgress. So which of the favours of your sustainer will you deny? From both seas come forth pearls and coral. So which of the favours of your sustainer will you deny? And his are the ships towering on the sea like mountains. So which of the favours of your sustainer will you deny? Every one upon it the earth will perish, and there will remain the face of your sustainer, full of majesty and honour. So which of the favours of your sustainer will you deny? All who are in the heavens and the earth ask of him. Every day he is in a new affair. So which of the favours of your sustainer will you deny? Ar-Rahman 14:30. After this, people differ in their material provision according to the causes of goodness in virtuous societies and the causes of evil in societies that do not follow God's guidance. Yet the principle of disparity in provision always follows a fixed law. God has created people with different aptitudes, perceptions, interests and functions. Some are gifted in gathering and increasing wealth, while others are gifted in other areas and may not care for wealth or its accumulation. If society follows God's guidance, each individual will receive his share according to his focus and efforts. But if society becomes corrupt and follows its whims, the distribution of provision becomes distorted. Yet disparity remains in all conditions, and ultimately all matters are subject to God's decree, by which events and actions are realized, and his wisdom in the distribution of provision and wealth prevails. And they say, why was this Quran not sent down upon a great man from one of the two cities? Is it they who distribute the mercy of your sustainer? It is we who have apportioned among them their livelihood in the life of this world, and we have raised some of them above others in rank, so that some may take others into service. But the mercy of your sustainer is better than what they accumulate. Az-Zukhruf 31:32. And God has favoured some of you over others in provision. An-Nahl 71. Say, verily my sustainer enlarges provision for whom he wills of his servants and withholds it. Sabah 39. God's wisdom is varied and distributed behind the expansion and contraction of provision. The expansion may be for the righteous, so that they may show gratitude, or it may be for the wrongdoers, so that they may become heedless. Contraction may come so that people may be patient and remember, or so that they may disbelieve. It is all a test and a trial within the framework of God's will, decree, subjugation and management. Whoever desires the immediate worldly gains, we hasten for him therein what we will for whom we will. Then we have appointed for him hell, where he will burn, condemned and rejected. But whoever desires the hereafter and strives for it as it should be striven for, while he is a believer, it is those whose striving will be appreciated. To each category we extend, to these and to those, from the bounty of your sustainer. And the bounty of your sustainer is not restricted. See how we have favoured some of them over others, but the hereafter is greater in degrees and greater in distinction. Al-Isra 18:21. Every soul will taste death, and we test you with both good and evil as a trial, and to us you will be returned. Al-Anbiya 35. And we will surely test you with something of fear and hunger and loss of wealth and lives and fruits, but give glad tidings to the patient, those who, when disaster strikes them, say, indeed we belong to God, and indeed to him we will return. Those are the ones upon whom are blessings from their sustainer and mercy, and it is those who are rightly guided. Al-Baqarah 155, 157. And we sent messengers to nations before you. Then we seized them with suffering and adversity that they might humble themselves to us. Why then did they not humble themselves when our punishment came upon them? But their hearts became hardened, and Satan made attractive to them what they were doing. So when they forgot that by which they had been reminded, we opened to them the gates of all things, until, when they rejoiced in what they were given, we seized them suddenly, and they were left in despair. So the people who had wronged were eliminated, and all praise is due to God, sustainer of the worlds. Al-An'am 42:45. And if they had maintained the right way, we would have given them abundant water as a trial for them, and whoever turns away from the remembrance of his sustainer, he will send him into a grievous punishment. Al-Jinn 16:17. But blessing always accompanies righteousness, whether provision is vast or limited. Blessing is something beyond mere abundance. It may be present with little, and it may be absent with much. Blessing brings good use of provision, contentment, ease and righteousness in life. And ask forgiveness of your sustainer, and then turn to him in repentance. He will grant you good provision for a specified term, and give every doer of favour his favour. Hud 3. And if only the people of the cities had believed and feared God, we would have opened upon them blessings from the heavens and the earth. But they denied the messengers, so we seized them for what they were earning. Al-Araf 96. Say, the evil and the good are not equal, even though the abundance of evil may impress you. So fear God, O people of understanding, that you may be successful. Al-Ma'idah 100. So let not their wealth or their children impress you. God only intends to punish them through these things in worldly life, and that their souls should depart while they are disbelievers. At-Tawbah 55. Thus, the issue of provision becomes a truth of Islamic belief, establishing in the mind of the believer a unique understanding that brings peace to both heart and intellect and connects him to his sustainer. It is a vision that makes him grateful and mindful of God's hand upon him whenever he receives a blessing and whenever he faces difficulty. Whether God expands his provision and grants him abundance or decrees for him scarcity and constraint, he remains content, neither fearing people regarding his provision nor becoming heedless of the test of abundance. This is the correct understanding of reality as decreed by the All-Wise, the All-Knowing. As the Quranic method overflows in expounding the issue of provision, it also overflows in portraying God's encompassing knowledge and oversight over man, and indeed over the entire universe, his awareness of all things and his dominion over them. He watches over everything, knows all secrets and all that is manifest, and he is with his creation wherever they are and wherever they go. But why should we attempt to express this truth in our limited human language? Why not let the Quran, in its inimitable style, speak for itself? And whatever matter you, O Prophet, are engaged in, and whatever portion of the Quran you recite, and whatever deed you people do, we are witnesses over you when you are involved in it. And not even the weight of an atom on the earth or in the heavens is hidden from your sustainer, nor anything smaller than that or greater, but that it is in a clear register. Yunus 61. Do you not see that God knows whatever is in the heavens and whatever is on the earth? Not a whisper among three people, but that he is their fourth, nor among five, but that he is their sixth, nor fewer than that, nor more, but that he is with them wherever they are. Then, on the day of resurrection, he will inform them of what they did. Verily, God has knowledge of all things. Al-Mujadilah 7. He is the first and the last, the ascendant and the intimate, and he is of all things knowing. It is he who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, then established himself above the throne. He knows what enters into the earth and what emerges from it, and what descends from the sky, and what ascends therein. And he is with you wherever you are, and God of what you do is seeing. His is the dominion of the heavens and the earth, and to God are all matters returned. He causes the night to merge into the day and causes the day to merge into the night, and he is knowing of what is within the breasts. Al-Hadid 3, 6. Verily, they hide their chests to conceal themselves from him. But even when they cover themselves with their garments, he knows what they conceal and what they reveal. Verily, he is knowing of what is within the breasts. Hud 5. Just as God is all-knowing and all-aware, he is also all-powerful and all-dominant, having complete control both in this world and in the hereafter. There is no escape, no refuge from him, neither here nor there. Say, shall I take a protector other than God, the creator of the heavens and the earth, who feeds and is not fed? Say, verily, I have been commanded to be the first to submit, and not to be of the polytheists. Say, verily, I fear if I should disobey my sustainer, the punishment of a tremendous day. Whoever is averted from it on that day, he has bestowed his mercy upon him, and that is the clear triumph. And if God touches you with harm, none can remove it except him. And if he touches you with good, then he is over all things powerful, and he is the subjugator over his servants, and he is the wise, the all-aware. Al-An'am 14:18. And with him are the keys of the unseen. None knows them except him, and he knows what is on the land and in the sea. Not a leaf falls but that he knows it. And there is not a grain within the darknesses of the earth, and nothing moist or dry, but that it is written in a clear record. Al-An'am 59. It is he who takes your souls by night and knows what you have committed by day. Then he revives you therein, that a specified term may be fulfilled. Then to him will be your return. Then he will inform you about what you used to do. And he is the subjugator over his servants, and he sends over you guardian angels until, when death comes to one of you, our messengers take his soul, and they do not fail in their duty. Then they are returned to God, their true sustainer. Unquestionably, his is the judgment, and he is the swiftest of accountants. Al-An'am 60:62. Say, who rescues you from the darknesses of the land and sea, when you call upon him imploringly and privately, saying, if you should save us from this, we will surely be among the grateful. Say, it is God who saves you from it and from every distress. Then you still associate others with him. Al-An'am 63:64. Say, he is the one who is able to send upon you punishment from above you or from beneath your feet, or to confuse you so you become factions and make you taste the violence of one another. Look how we diversify the signs, so that they may understand. Al-An'am 65. God knows what every female carries, and what the wombs lose prematurely or exceed in time, and everything with him is by measure. He is the knower of the unseen and the witnessed, the grand, the exalted. It is the same to him concerning you, whether one conceals his speech or one speaks it aloud, and whether one is hidden by night or conspicuous by day. Arad 8:10. Say, O God, sustainer of all dominion, you give sovereignty to whom you will, and you strip sovereignty from whom you will. You exalt whom you will, and you abase whom you will. In your hand is all that is good. Truly, you have power over all things. You cause the night to merge into the day, and you cause the day to merge into the night. You bring forth the living from the dead, and you bring forth the dead from the living. And you provide sustenance for whomever you will without measure. Al-Imran 26:27. If only those who wronged could see the punishment, they would know that all power belongs to God, and that God's punishment is severe. On that day, those who were followed will disown those who followed them, and they will see the punishment, and all their ties will be severed. Those who followed will say, if only we could return to the world, we would disown them just as they disowned us. Thus God will show them their deeds as regrets upon them, and they will not emerge from the fire. Al-Baqarah 165, 167. If you could only see when they are seized with terror, with no escape, and are taken from a place nearby. They will say, we believe in him, but how can they attain faith from a place so far away? They had already disbelieved in him before, and they used to cast aspersions on the unseen from a far-off place, and a barrier will be placed between them and what they desire, as was done with their kind before. Indeed, they were in grave doubt. Saba 51:54. Thus we suffice with these verses in portraying the all-encompassing knowledge and overpowering dominance that God has over his creation, in the context of explaining the truth of divine oversight, sustenance, guardianship, and dominion over every living thing in existence. These verses correct all distorted views regarding divinity and clarify its relationship with this universe. God has created everything and every living being for a fixed term. Nothing that is created is eternal and unending, just as nothing that is created is pre-existent and ancient. This is a truth of the Islamic faith, a fundamental element of the Islamic worldview, which these truths of faith instill in the human mind. All things perish except his face. Al-Qasas 88. All that is on it, the earth, will pass away, but the face of your sustainer, full of majesty and honor, will abide forever. Ar-Rahman 26:27. And we did not grant immortality to any human being before you, O Prophet. If you are to die, will they live forever? Every soul shall taste death, and we test you with both good and evil as a trial, and to us you will all return. Al-Anbiya 34:35. And every nation has its appointed term. When their time comes, they cannot delay it by an hour, nor can they advance it. Al-Araf 34. On that day the earth will be replaced with another earth and the heavens as well, and they will appear before God, the One, the Overpowering. Ibrahim 48. When the sky is cleft asunder and the stars are scattered and the seas are burst forth and the graves are overturned, every soul will know what it has sent forth and what it has left behind. Al-Infitar 1:5. On the day when the sky will be like molten brass and the mountains will be like tufts of wool, and no friend will ask about his friend. Al-Ma'arij 8:10. They ask you about the mountains. Say, my sustainer will scatter them as dust and leave them a level plain. You will see no crookedness or curvature therein. Taha 105:107. And on that day we will cause the mountains to move, and you will see the earth laid bare, and we will gather them all together, leaving none of them behind. Al-Kahf 47. On that day when the sight will be dazzled, and the moon will be eclipsed, and the sun and the moon will be brought together, man will say on that day, where is the escape? Al-Qiyamah 7:10. When the sun is wrapped up, and the stars fall away, and the mountains are set in motion, and the pregnant she-camels are abandoned, and the wild beasts are gathered, and the seas are set ablaze, and the souls are paired. And when the girl-child buried alive is asked for what sin she was killed, and the scrolls are laid open, and the sky is stripped away, and hellfire is set ablaze, and paradise is brought near, every soul will know what it has brought forth. At Taqwir 1:14. Everything changes or perishes, and every human being either dies or is resurrected, all by the will and decree of God. Life and death are not mere cycles of the cosmos in the sense of endless cycles of creation and destruction, as some pagan Indian beliefs claim. These beliefs imagine that over a certain number of eons, the worlds and even the gods are destroyed and then renewed in a new cycle, forever without beginning or end, either by the hand of time or by the force of karma. Karma, however, is not a conscious, willing entity. It is simply what must be. Perhaps those whom the Quran speaks of, the Arab polytheists who said, "There is nothing but our life in this world, we die and we live, and nothing destroys us but time." Al-Jathiyah 24 had picked up fragments of these Indian beliefs during their trading journeys to the Indian coasts. But it is God, glorified be He, who initiates creation and then brings it back at a designated time, according to a purposeful wisdom, especially concerning humanity. This is clearly stated, that it is for the trial and testing of mankind, followed by judgment and recompense. Life is a test in this world, and there is recompense in the hereafter. Death is a fixed term, and destruction is a hastened punishment, and each is by God's decree. Blessed is he in whose hand is all dominion, and he has power over all things. He who created death and life to test which of you is best indeed, and he is the Almighty, the All-Forgiving. Al-Mulk 1:2. To him is your final return, all of you, a true promise from God. Truly, he originates creation and then he brings it back again so that he may reward those who believe and do good deeds with justice. And as for those who disbelieve, for them is a drink of scalding water and a painful punishment because of their disbelief. Yunus 4. Do they not see how God begins creation and then repeats it? Surely that is easy for God. Say, Travel through the land and observe how he began creation. Then God will bring forth the next creation. Indeed, God has power over all things. He punishes whom he wills, and he grants mercy to whom he wills. And to him you will return. And you will not escape him on earth or in the sky, nor will you have any protector or helper besides God. Al-Ankabut 19:22. We destroyed generations before you when they did wrong, and their messengers came to them with clear signs, but they would not believe. Thus do we recompense the wicked people. Then we made you their successors on the earth after them, so that we may see how you will act. Yunus 13:14. And there is no city but that we will destroy it before the day of resurrection, or punish it with a severe punishment. This has been inscribed in the book. Al-Isra 58. Thus it becomes deeply rooted in the consciousness of the believer that he was not created in vain, nor is he left aimlessly. Everything, every living being, comes into existence with a purpose and perishes with a purpose. Just as it comes into existence by God's decree, it perishes by his decree. The will, wisdom and power of God are behind everything that perishes and everything that comes into existence. Human beings, however, are not capable of perceiving the essence of God in this worldly life, nor are they capable of comprehending the manner of his actions. They can only understand what they see or what they can infer from what they see. But God is unlike anything that they know. His essence and the nature of his actions cannot be grasped by human perception. No vision can grasp him, but he grasps all vision, and he is the subtle, the all-aware. Al-An'am 103. It is not for any human being that God should speak to him except by inspiration or from behind a veil, or by sending a messenger to reveal by his permission whatever he wills. Truly he is most high, most wise. Shura 51. And when Moses came at the appointed time, and his sustainer spoke to him, he said, O my sustainer, show yourself to me so that I may look upon you. God said, You shall not see me, but look upon the mountain. If it remains firm in its place, then you will see me. But when his sustainer manifested his glory to the mountain, he made it crumble to dust, and Moses fell down unconscious. When he recovered, he said, Glory be to you. I turn to you in repentance, and I am the first of the believers. Al-Araf 143. Those who do not hope for our meeting say, Why are not angels sent down to us? Or why do we not see our sustainer? They have indeed become arrogant within themselves, and have become insolent with great insolence. On the day when they see the angels, there will be no glad tidings for the wicked, and they will say, A forbidden barrier stands between us and them. Al-Furqan 21:22. When the Prophet Muhammad was asked after his night journey and ascension, Did you see your sustainer? He replied, How could I see him? Yet human beings are naturally created by their very inner constitution, which God has fashioned them with, to perceive God's existence and his sustainership over them. They are also naturally equipped through their conscious faculties to perceive his existence and sustainership from the effects of his actions in the universe and within themselves. They do not deviate from this innate perception or conscious awareness except due to misleading influences. They do not reach the level of denying God's existence entirely except due to a corruption in their being, a malfunction in their faculties of connection, reception and response. The innate awareness of God is expressed in the Quran in the following verses. And remember when your sustainer took from the children of Adam, from their loins, their descendants, and made them testify concerning themselves, saying, Am I not your sustainer? They said, Yes, we bear witness. This was lest you should say on the day of resurrection, Indeed, we were unaware of this, or lest you should say, It was our forefathers who associated others with God before us, and we were merely descendants after them. Will you then destroy us for what the falsifiers did? Al-Araf 172, 173. When affliction touches people, they call upon their sustainer, turning to him in repentance. But when he lets them taste mercy from him, behold, a group of them associates others with their sustainer. So let them disbelieve in what we have given them, but they will soon know. Ar-Rum 33:34. When affliction touches man, he calls upon his sustainer, turning to him in repentance. But when God bestows upon him a blessing from himself, he forgets what he had called upon before, and he sets up rivals to God to mislead others from his path. Say, enjoy your disbelief for a little while, you are certainly among the people of the fire. Is the one who is devoutly obedient during the hours of the night, prostrating and standing in prayer, fearing the hereafter and hoping for the mercy of his sustainer like one who does not? Say, are those who know equal to those who do not know? Only those of understanding will take heed. Az-Zumar 8:9. Your sustainer is he who drives the ships for you through the sea so that you may seek of his bounty. Truly, he is most merciful to you. And when affliction touches you at sea, all those you call upon vanish except for him. But when he brings you safely to land, you turn away. Indeed, man is ever ungrateful. Do you feel secure that he will not cause the land to swallow you up or send against you a storm of stones? Then you will find no protector for yourselves. Or do you feel secure that he will not send you back to sea once again and unleash upon you a violent storm, drowning you for your ingratitude? Then you will find no one to take vengeance on us on your behalf. Al-Isra 66:69. It is he who enables you to travel by land and by sea. When you are in ships, and they sail with them by a favourable wind, and they rejoice in it, there comes upon them a stormy wind, and waves come upon them from every direction, and they think they are surrounded. They call upon God, sincere to him in their faith, saying, if you deliver us from this, we will surely be among the grateful. But when he delivers them, behold, they rebel in the land wrongfully. O mankind, your rebellion is only against yourselves. It is but the enjoyment of worldly life. Then to us is your return, and we will inform you of what you used to do. Yunus 22:23. In the first of these texts, we witness the innate recognition, while still in its pure, untainted state, unaffected by any of life's external influences, of God's exclusive sustainership without any partner. In the second and third texts, we also see the innate recognition of God's exclusive sustainership when it is stripped bare in the face of hardship and danger, free from all the influences that had led it astray from the oneness of God and sincere devotion to him alone. Yet, after being delivered from peril, it returns to associating others with God due to those misleading influences. In the fourth and fifth texts, we find an example of the hardship and danger that strips the human nature of all deception, influence and misguidance, only to return to error after deliverance, except for those blessed with sincerity and repentance. True knowledge is what leads the human vision to be cleansed of impurities and misleading influences. As an example of the innate nature's search for its true sustenance, its discomfort with other deities and sustainers, its confusion between what it feels within itself of the reality of divinity, nature of Godhood, and what it sees as familiar in a given environment of deviation from this truth, until the moment of harmony between this nature and that truth, and the burst of illuminating light within when this harmony occurs. An example of this decisive experience is given in the Quranic method through the story of Abraham. And when Abraham said to his father Azar, do you take idols as gods? Verily I see you and your people in manifest error. Thus we showed Abraham the dominion of the heavens and the earth, that he might be of those who are certain. When night descended upon him, he saw a star and said, this is my sustainer. But when it set, he said, I do not love those that set. Then when he saw the moon rising, he said, this is my sustainer. But when it set, he said, if my sustainer does not guide me, I will surely be among the misguided people. Then when he saw the sun rising, he said, this is my sustainer. This is greater. But when it set, he said, O my people, I disown that which you associate with God. I have turned my face toward him who created the heavens and the earth, inclining toward the truth, and I am not one of the polytheists. His people argued with him. He said, do you argue with me concerning God while he has guided me? I do not fear what you associate with him unless my sustainer wills something. My sustainer encompasses all things in knowledge. Will you not then take heed? How should I fear what you associate with him, while you do not fear that you have associated with God that for which he has sent down no authority? Which of the two parties has more right to security, if you have any knowledge? Those who believe and do not mix their faith with wrongdoing, they are the ones who shall have security, and they are rightly guided. Al-An'am 6, 74, 82. The innate nature of Abraham was never at ease with idol worship and recoiled from it, despite growing up in an environment where such worship was prevalent, along with the worship of stars and planets. His nature turned to the other form of worship familiar in his environment, but night after night, and experiment after experiment, he found no peace in the worship of the setting stars and planets. His innate sense of the true God could not accept the disappearance, setting and changing of states. When the sun, the greatest of visible celestial bodies, finally set, the inner harmony between this pure nature and the supreme truth was realized, and he proclaimed, "O my people, I disown that which you associate with God. I have turned my face toward him who created the heavens and the earth." His people argued with him, but his argument was this inner proof that had touched his nature. Do you argue with me concerning God while he has guided me? This spontaneous touch to his conscience was a truth embedded within him, one he could not help but feel. It was a truth so prominent, so confirmed, so clear within his being that he could confront his people's arguments with it as a truth he perceived and saw. He challenged their attempts to intimidate him with their gods. How should I fear what you associate with him, while you do not fear that you have associated with God that for which he has sent down no authority? This truth had touched his nature, and from it burst forth the light by which he saw this reality in all its splendor. It is a magnificent model of the meeting between the innate nature and its true sustainer, beyond all veils and influences. As for the conscious perception of this truth, the Quranic method entrusts it to reflection upon the signs of God's power in the self and the horizons, and to witnessing the clear evidence therein, as expressed in such verses as, "And on the earth are signs for those of sure faith, and in yourselves. Will you not then see?" Ad-Dariyat 51, 20, 21. Say, "Look at what is in the heavens and the earth, but neither signs nor warnings benefit a people who do not believe." Yunus 10, 101. The command belongs to God alone. There is no deity but he, the most merciful, the most compassionate. Verily, in the creation of the heavens and the earth, the alternation of night and day, the ships that sail the seas for the benefit of mankind, and the water that God sends down from the sky to revive the earth after its death, and the creatures he has scattered throughout it, the changing of the winds and the clouds controlled between the heavens and the earth. Surely in all this are signs for people who use their reason. Al-Baqarah 2, 164. Among his signs is that he created you from dust, then, behold, you are human beings spreading over the earth. And among his signs is that he created for you from yourselves spouses, that you might find tranquility in them, and he placed between you affection and mercy. Truly in that are signs for people who reflect. And among his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the diversity of your languages and your colours. Truly in that are signs for those who know. And among his signs is your sleep by night and by day, and your seeking of his bounty. Truly in that are signs for people who listen. And among his signs is that he shows you lightning, causing fear and hope, and he sends down rain from the sky, reviving the earth after its death. Truly in that are signs for people who reason. Al-Rum 30:20, 24. God is he who raised the heavens without pillars that you can see. Then he established himself over the throne. He made the sun and moon subservient, each running for an appointed term. He manages all affairs and makes the signs clear that you might be certain of the meeting with your sustainer. And it is he who spread out the earth and placed therein firm mountains and rivers, and of every fruit he made pears, two of a kind. He causes the night to cover the day. Truly in that are signs for people who reflect. And on the earth are neighbouring plots, vineyards, crops and date palms, some growing in clusters and others standing alone, watered with the same water. Yet we make some of them exceed others in fruit. Truly in that are signs for people who reason. Arad 13:2-4. Such directives are abundant, meant to awaken the faculties of reception and awareness in the entirety of the human being, to reflect on the signs of power in the self and the horizons, so that the testimony of conscious perception may stand alongside the testimony of innate nature, counteracting the misleading influences that human environments impose, one generation after another, throughout human history. Despite the clarity of the signs, the strength of the proof, and the firmness of the innate nature, God, out of his mercy toward his servants, did not will to leave them solely to their nature, nor solely to their conscious awareness, nor solely to the call of cosmic signs to their nature and awareness. He did not will that their accountability rest solely on these evidences. Instead, he sent them messengers to remind them, to awaken their nature, and to alert their awareness to those testimonies and signs scattered throughout the realms of the universe and the self. For he, glorified be he, knows that the innate nature might be veiled, and that the intellect might be swayed by whims, desires, and various influences. Therefore he made his ultimate proof over his servants, the messengers and the warnings. Messengers bringing glad tidings and warnings, so that mankind might have no argument against God after the messengers, and God is ever mighty wise. An-Nisa 4, 165. Whoever is guided is only guided for the benefit of his soul, and whoever goes astray only goes astray against it. No bearer of burdens will bear the burden of another, and we would never punish until we sent a messenger. Al-Isra 17:15. Whoever opposes the messenger after guidance has become clear to him and follows a path other than that of the believers, we will let him pursue his chosen path and expose him to hell. What an evil destination! Indeed, God does not forgive associating others with him, but he forgives anything less than that for whomever he wills. Whoever associates others with God has certainly gone far astray. An-Nisa 4, 115, 116. Your sustainer would never destroy any communities without first sending a messenger to their mother city, reciting to them our revelations, nor would we ever destroy any communities unless their people were wrongdoers. Al-Qasas 28:59. God, glorified be he, has promised to guide those who strive and sincerely seek guidance, just as he has promised not to lead a people astray after he has guided them until he makes clear to them what they should avoid. As for those who strive in our cause, we will surely guide them to our ways. And indeed, God is with the doers of good. Al-Ankabut 29:69. And God would never lead a people astray after he has guided them until he makes clear to them what they should avoid. Indeed, God has full knowledge of all things. At-Tawbah 9:115. Beyond this there is no justice, and beyond this there is no mercy in the treatment of the servants. The reality that God has made his proof over his servants in the messengers and the warnings, not in the testimony of innate nature nor in the judgment of the intellect, should temper the zeal of those who wish to elevate the intellect above the text, making it the arbiter in matters of the Sharia. They must restrain their excesses, for the intellect is not to be taken as a god. It errs and is correct, it is led astray and finds guidance, and it is influenced by various pressures and influences. Therefore the text, not the intellect, must be the judge. The role of the intellect is to understand the text and adhere to it, not to judge its validity or lack thereof, nor to determine whether to accept, reject, or modify it. This is for God alone, not for any of his creation, and human intellect is but one of his creations. Thus the abstract intellectual proofs for the existence of God, pursued by the scholars of theology under the influence of Aristotelian logic, which relies solely on intellectual premises, are far removed in their method and alien to the Islamic approach and the Quranic method. These proofs are the weakest in this field and the most prone to argument and debate. The Mutazilites went astray when they denied the attributes of God, glorified be he, lest they multiply the eternal entities. For if these attributes were eternal like God's essence, they feared the eternal beings would multiply. This is a purely intellectual analogy, detached from reality and from the Quranic method. God, glorified be he, has described himself with his attributes, And among these attributes are those that affirm his oneness, his eternity, and his all-encompassing nature. Glorified be he to the end of his beautiful names. Whatever is in the heavens and the earth glorifies God, for he is the mighty, the wise. To him belongs the dominion of the heavens and the earth. He gives life and causes death, and he has power over all things. He is the first and the last, the manifest and the hidden, and he has full knowledge of all things. Al-Hadid 57:1-3. He is God, there is no deity but he, the knower of the unseen and the seen. He is the most merciful, the most compassionate. He is God. There is no deity but he, the sovereign, the holy, the source of peace, the giver of security, the guardian, the mighty, the compeller, the majestic. Glory be to God above what they associate with him. He is God, the creator, the originator, the fashioner. To him belong the most beautiful names. Whatever is in the heavens and the earth glorifies him, and he is the mighty, the wise. Al-Hashr 59:22-24. The Mutazilites followed the abstract logic of Aristotle and the intellectual abstractions of Plotinus rather than the Quranic method, the true Islamic approach. This is what led to the historical controversy known as the creation of the Quran debate, as they denied the Quran's eternity to avoid multiplying the eternal beings. The entire discourse in this manner is alien to Islamic thought and the Islamic method. The Quran is the word of God, his revelation, and that suffices. God, glorified be he, has his attributes and his most beautiful names, but human beings cannot comprehend the true nature of these attributes. He, glorified be he, hears and sees, he knows and wills, but human beings cannot grasp the how of any of this in relation to him, for God is unlike anything in creation. Therefore, humans cannot perceive the how of his attributes, nor the how of his actions. They cannot compare any of it to what they know of themselves or of other creatures of God. This is why the most appropriate response to anyone who asks about the how of God's actions is, "Thus does God act as he wills." This is not an explanation of the how, for God knows that humans, given the nature he created them with, cannot comprehend this how. At that, Zechariah called upon his sustainer, saying, "My sustainer, grant me from yourself a good offspring. Indeed, you are the hearer of supplication." So the angels called him while he was standing in prayer in the chamber. Indeed, God gives you good tidings of John, confirming a word from God, and who will be honorable, chaste, and a prophet from among the righteous. Zechariah said, "My sustainer, how can I have a boy when I have reached old age and my wife is barren?" He said, "Thus does God do whatever he wills." Al-Imran 3:38-40. And mention when the angel said, "O Mary, indeed God gives you good tidings of a word from him, whose name will be the Messiah, Jesus, the Son of Mary, distinguished in this world and the hereafter, and among those brought near to God. He will speak to the people in the cradle and in maturity, and will be of the righteous." She said, "My sustainer, how can I have a child when no man has touched me?" He said, "Thus does God create whatever he wills. When he decrees a matter, he only says to it, 'Be,' and it is." Al-Imran 3:45-47. Indeed, the example of Jesus to God is like that of Adam. He created him from dust. Then he said to him, "Be," and he was. Al-Imran 3:59. Or consider the one who passed by a city that had collapsed on its roofs. He said, "How will God bring this to life after its death?" So God caused him to die for 100 years. Then he revived him. He said, "How long have you remained?" The man said, "I have remained a day or part of a day." He said, "Rather, you have remained for 100 years. Look at your food and your drink. It has not changed with time. And look at your donkey. And we will make you a sign for the people. Look at the bones, how we raise them, and then we cover them with flesh." When it became clear to him, he said, "I know that God is over all things competent." Al-Baqarah 2:259.